Okay, my friends, this is kind of hard for me because this is a Chicago University, Chicago Press. Pseudoscience wars, and they're going after Immanuel Velikovsky and the birth of the modern fringe. Let me tell you something. If they paid attention, maybe they'd understand. But they don't pay attention because they don't care. They have already indoctrinated everybody and said now they call them pseudoscientists, denialists of their foolishness. The things that you're being taught in the universities today, absolute nonsense. And I can prove it right now. So if you stick around, you will see. All right, I'm going to leave that in. I was going to take that out because it sounds a little nasty, but I want you to know how I feel. I do feel kind of nasty because listen to this. They're going to tell you there's a different approach between drawing the line between knowledge and nonsense. Well, nonsense is when you won't pay attention to the facts, and you will see the facts right this minute. All right, let me just be perfectly clear that you understand. Worlds in Collision was about our recorded history, not some guesses. This was all documented. Velikovsky wrote it. They attacked the hell out of him, and I wrote a book in support of him because I'm still angry about the whole thing because I've been treated worse than he was. This is Mud Fossils, Velikovsky, Minds in Collision. And this tells the story of Mud Fossils, proves basically what he said. This was not long ago. We had this cataclysm that happened on the Earth. Now, I make fun of PhDs. I call them perfectly happy deluded, because that's basically, they will tell you that they know everything there is to know and that they've done all the work and the research. But no, they haven't. They have accepted what they have been told to say, and they realize if they don't say it, they will be destroyed, just like Velikovsky, just like me, just like Tesla, just like everybody that had something of importance to say. No ears to hear. But if you go to school for programming or for, circuitry or that kind of stuff, mechanics, landscaping, real stuff, that's a whole different story. You go to school to learn theology and history and all of this nonsense they're teaching. It's insanity. Even physics, just total nonsense. As a matter of fact, today they came out with this thing, just exactly what I said. Physicists broke the speed of light. We did this years ago. Okay, my friends, there's a bunch of little clips I have here that are very important aspects of this entire production. Let's just listen to what he says here about his first book.
And advanced his theories. His first book was titled Worlds in Collision, and that was followed by Ages in Chaos, Earth in Upheaval, and Oedipus and Akhenaten. Dr. Velikovsky's contention is that in the memory of man, the Earth has gone through great natural paroxysms. He's founded his theory on the ancient records of man from all over the world.
This is the key. He went everywhere around the world. Tomb carvings, papyruses, texts, hieroglyphic, everything. He went everywhere around the world, all different cultures.
On archaeological evidence in the form of ancient calendars that have become strangely obsolete, and on new and radical interpretations of information from astronomy, paleontology, paleomagnetism, and evolution. In addition, Dr. Velikovsky's theory has led him to re-examine prevailing views regarding the origins of religion, as well as those which form the basis of celestial mechanics. And he also calls for a realignment of the chronologies of ancient civilizations. Well, the result of this wide-sweeping theory, as I've said, was a flood of very harsh criticism and ridicule. The scientific community was almost unanimous in rejection of his work. Jacques Barzun, Dean of Graduate Faculties at Columbia University, wrote just recently that the merits of the scientific issue do not alter the deplorable treatment Dr. Velikovsky's ideas received from the profession. The prejudging scorn and closing of ranks against the heretic showed typical guild animus.
That's still going on. I guess that guy was a nice guy. He was, but I tell you, his career would not be long if he started speaking up like that.
In recent years, however, evidence collected during the geophysical year and by several space probes has tended to verify several of Velikovsky's predictions. For instance,
not several, virtually all of them. Now, goes way back to 72, I believe, when this production was made. Now, I have evidence that, I have DNA evidence and CAT scans, and we have, the space shuttle and all the different cameras out there. And, I mean, it's all very, very well verified now, as far as I'm concerned. And I'll show you why. And I will show you the evidence, not just, oh, I think this, I think that.
For instance, he had said in the face of strong disagreement that because of her recent birth, Venus is extremely hot, a view subsequently borne out by observations of Mariner 2. He was accused of inventing an interplanetary magnetic field, but one has been detected since then by Pioneer 5. He claimed in 1950 that the ancient civilizations of Central America were much older than believed. Recently, this view, too, has been proved by radiocarbon dating. All in all, a score of Dr. Velikovsky's predictions have been verified, and the opposition within the scientific community has abated. New voices are being heard. For instance, that of Lloyd Motz, professor of astronomy at Columbia University, who, while he still disagrees with Velikovsky, says his predictions should be recognized and his writings should be carefully studied and analyzed because they are the product of an extraordinary and brilliant mind and are based on some of the most concentrated and penetrating scholarship and research of our period.
Yes, absolutely. And he did a lot of textual, text, documentation. I'm a material scientist. I picked this up and I say, that's a goose. He said, no, it isn't. It's a rock. I said, no, it's not. That was a goose at one time. There's his feathers right there. And that was a goose, and he died in the mud fossil way from the Great Flood. You see, that's flat right there. Why is that flat? And why is this goose? Yeah, I mean, you could tell where his neck is and everything if you know how to look and you start to understand mud fossils. And I know the process now. I've done all the chemistry. And I have the lungs, I have meat converts. It depends on where it is. And they're all flat. You see that? That's a lung. And it's been DNA certified, tested, CATs, and everything. The whole 9 yards. Look, flat as a pancake on the back. Why? And why would that lung be outside of the guy's body and not deteriorated? Because it was in a hot, salt water flood. The bodies eroded away, yes. The fleshy stuff, this is not. Once you get to this heavy-duty fascia, it doesn't go away easily. Like this one here is another lung. You see this one? You still got the lung inside here. That's where the alveoli are. This right here is the pleura. That big heavy-duty, like this stuff here is heavy-duty fabric. And that's the bag that the lung sits in. And you see this little flap here? Same as that flap right there. They're the same. And it's flat as a pancake on that. Why is this one out and flat as a pancake? There was a great flood. Velikovsky was right. And it happened not long ago, 1,500 years ago. Everything you see here, I picked up off the top of the surface of the earth. I didn't dig for this stuff. I was showing these flaps that are on the lungs, and I think I said the flood only happened 1,500 years ago. That's not correct. 1,500 BC, so that's like 3,500 years ago. But these are the products of the flood. I mean, everything turned into stone because it literally was cooked in the hot rivers and lakes, and even the ocean might have boiled. I have no idea. But we were almost impacted, just as Velikovsky talks about, by Venus. It was all recorded. I'm not making any of this stuff up, and he didn't either. He did the actual research, and they destroyed him for it. But anyway, 1,500 BC. All right, that was an incorrect statement. This is farm territory. I had a house built here. After the house was built, I found all these things. I'm sure, and I found them in piles of dirt laying around the yard and so forth. I'm sure they did get dug up during that process. Some of them are giants. I've shown this over and over and over and over. Now, I talked to the people at Helix Biolab. They want to be sure that you understand that I was the one that extracted the DNA samples. They tested what I sent them. And what I sent them was from right, I'll show you where I took it from in a second. But it came out to be that it was excellent quality. Excellent quality DNA was obtained for the 36-inch tip sample and the lung sample. I just showed you the lung before. Let's take a look at the 36-inch tip. Still has fingerprints on it. You see that? That's a fingernail. That's almost 3 feet long. And that is, and I broke this piece off to get down inside where the blood is. And so this is what I did. I broke that piece off. You see this over here? These are sweat pores. Sweat pore, sweat pore, sweat pore, sweat pore. These are the fingerprint ridges. My thumb is the same size as one fingerprint ridge. This thing's huge. The fingertip itself is almost 3 feet long. It's just gigantic. Now, just to show you one other thing, there was all kinds of creatures there. You see, that was the bone in the back, and this is where the fibula sits. You have the tibia and the fibula, and that's where the main bone came and sat, and the other one sits on the side. You have the same thing in you. Only these didn't have tendons; they have springs in here. Hold on. See that? I don't know if you can see that. That's a pin right there. And there's a rocker spring in here. I found several different types of no-toes. I believe this is a rocker spring. You step on the front here, it rocks that spring backwards. And then when you stand back down, it comes forward. The other one, I have some from Tish Egerton. Same thing. They're extremely elegantly made. You know, I think that would be better than having a tendon. You see that? The big bone I showed you comes up out of there straight up. This is where the secondary bone matches up. You have the tibia and a fibula. And that gives you the ability to do a little bit of movement back and forth between them. Now, you see the things I'm showing you. Just think of how it would have, well, it's not floating now either. This should be very widely understood by now. This has been 10 years, over 10 years. And I have every bit of evidence. There's nothing, and these I call them no-toes, because there was no toes in them. They had springs. You see that little dot there? It's just unbelievable, but it's the way it is. See, there's one on this side too. I don't know what else to say. Here's a giant hair. That's a hair. You see this right here? That right there is where the muscle attaches to the hair. You know why a muscle attaches to your hair? So your hairs can stand up on end. You see this over here? You see that glob right there? That's the sebaceous gland. And I can prove this. I have this, you know, there's no question. You could do the DNA on it and test it and everything, I'm sure. Although I'm not positive it would still be there. But that's, you look at a sebaceous gland, it's right on this side. The other side is where what they call it, a pili muscle. And it attaches so your hair can stand up on end. Now the crazy thing is, this one's growing down and then turning around and coming back up. Now, is this a curly-haired person? I don't know. I thought they always just went straight up. And that's where the skin surrounds the hair follicle. I don't know if medicine even knows. Well, they must know that by now, but who knows? You see that? That's the sebaceous gland. That's the muscle. This is from a giant. How many of these could you fit on your face? Oh, I love a twofer. You see that? That's where this pili muscle, erector muscle, gets in here so it can stand your hair up on end. Now, what's on the other side is this sebaceous gland. Well, what do we find there? A sebaceous gland. Look at that. That's identical. Now, they show, well, actually they do show it wrapping around. I don't know. But you see here, that's the vein and artery coming down in here. Right here. You see these little balls all over? You know when I said a twofer? I'll show you what a twofer is. This is the skin, which we call a mucosa. And this is the interstitium. Okay, you see this mucosa? That's the same as the skin, only they're doing it so that it's sort of a generic. You would have hairs coming in if it was your outside skin. Inside of you, in your throat and all that, you don't have hairs. So that's the way they're showing mucosa. But they all have these interstitium balls, and they all have a fabric that allows your movement and then come back to these anchors. What they showed up there was the mucosa, the hair follicle, and then all of these little balls. And I'll show you that happening in another shot. All right, all I want to say is there was creatures this size, there was creatures our size, there was smaller creatures, there was creatures that, it's just vast biology. And that's all I can find is biology. I haven't found a damn thing that's not made out of biology. Some of it erodes, yeah, it turns into mud, absolutely. But it all came from biology. As far as I'm concerned, you can't show me something that wasn't from biology. Even crystals and all that stuff. That's how blood, it crystallizes. It's called nucleophilic substitution. And once it starts to make a crystallization pattern, it just builds on that. This is why I find this so exciting. I never noticed this before. I've been looking at these pictures for 10 years. Look at the difference between that cell right there and this one over here, and this one here, and this one here, and this one here, versus all of these over here. You see how this is basically the same looking stuff on the outside? That stuff is all moved to the front, moved to the front. I think they're heading over here. I think we've got some kind of an invasion going on here. And all of these, I'm going to come in a little closer. This is absolutely fascinating. This is what makes me continue doing this stuff. You see how all of these little heads now? They're moving this way. You can even see this one's turned around and is going that way, because it's close enough to make the connection. These over here, they're just all laying around here nice and, everybody's just having a good time. Well, over here, they say, we got a problem. We got a serious problem going on here. You see all the red spots here? That's blood. The rest is not blood. All of this stuff is interstitial and interstitial fluids. This is a different situation. And you're only seeing it up in here, heavily here. And what the hell is this all about? That's the only place I see this, at the very tip out there. I think we got an invasion going on right here. And these are coming up to meet the challenge with whatever they have in them, some kind of enzyme, which will kill these invaders, hopefully. But you see the difference? I just noticed this. This happens to me virtually every day. Something I've been looking at for years and years, never saw it. And boom, there it is. So don't forget now, what you were just looking at was a microscopic shot, something like this. This is on the face of the earth. This is in the United Kingdom, Huntington's Beach, United Kingdom. Look at the size of this compared to that. And this is not, I mean, it's huge, but there was more than one of them, I can tell you that for sure. Okay, my friends, this is from Lectures Beyond Beyond. Now, they're talking about Immanuel Velikovsky here and his different books, and how we forgot everything that we were told, but everything that was written down, we just think it's a joke. Now, this is only 27 minutes long, so I'm going to play the whole damn thing. Here goes.
14 years ago, in 1950, an amazingly unconventional thinker astounded the scientific community with a theory that challenged many of its most deeply rooted assumptions. In a persuasive bestseller, this man presented a radical view of world history that linked research and hypotheses in such diverse disciplines as astronomy, geology, comparative religion, and archaeology.
Let me just make a point of this. If you don't have them all, you have nothing. If you can't cover all those bases, then it's not going to work. And they cannot cover them in academia. I can cover them. Velikovsky covered them. Now it's time to turn around and say, we're done with this nonsense.
A storm of protest arose from every corner of this academic world, claiming that the theory was totally wrong. This opposition soon turned into an attempt to suppress the book and discredit the man who wrote it. The man is Immanuel Velikovsky, Russian-born doctor and psychoanalyst, student of the sciences and humanities, founder and one-time editor of the Scripta Universitatis series, out of which grew the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. For the last 25 years, Dr. Velikovsky has been resident in the United States, where he has continued his studies and advanced his theories. His first book was titled Worlds in Collision, and that was followed by Ages in Chaos, Earth in Upheaval, and Oedipus and Akhenaten.
All of those things were taken from the historical documented records. They kept records. It's the hundreds of thousands of those clay tablets. They knew how to keep records.
Dr. Velikovsky's contention is that in the memory of man, the Earth has gone through great natural paroxysms. He's founded his theory on the ancient records of man from all over the world, on archaeological evidence in the form of ancient calendars that have become strangely obsolete, and on new and radical interpretations of information from astronomy, paleontology, paleomagnetism, and evolution. In addition, Dr. Velikovsky's theory has led him to re-examine prevailing views regarding the origins of religion, as well as those which form the basis of celestial mechanics. And he also calls for a realignment of the chronologies of ancient civilizations. Well, the result of this wide-sweeping theory, as I've said, was a flood of very harsh criticism and ridicule. The scientific community was almost unanimous in rejection of his work. Jacques Barzun, Dean of Graduate Faculties at Columbia University, wrote just recently that the merits of the scientific issue do not alter the deplorable treatment Dr. Velikovsky's ideas received from the profession. The prejudging scorn and closing of ranks against the heretic showed typical guild animus. In recent years, however, evidence collected during the geophysical year and by several space probes has tended to verify several of Velikovsky's predictions. For instance, he had said in the face of strong disagreement that because of her recent birth, Venus is extremely hot, a view subsequently borne out by observations of Mariner 2. He was accused of inventing an interplanetary magnetic field, but one has been detected since then by Pioneer 5.
Let me just show you something. He invented the magnetic fields. Look at them. They're everywhere. This is just taken with a cell phone. If you have the right kind of software and enough pixelization, you can see every tiny detail there is. And then when they build it into an image, you see it all like this. This is the moon. This is just taken into space. These are all magnetic fields. And anytime you have a magnetic field pushing against another magnetic field, you get a little bit of glow. And the harder they push, the glowier they glow. Well, while I'm in my physics pictures, I might as well show you this. This is pulsed red laser. Light is supposed to go one speed, case closed, in a vacuum, but it doesn't matter. We could accelerate it. This was accelerated, you see that? And when it accelerated, it concussed at this venturi and literally separated the particles. The particles themselves are here. There's two blacks and two whites. We never knew the black was attached to the white. We thought light was just white. It's not. You know, white, yellow, whatever color it is, whatever frequency. It is also attached to black particles, which is the dark matter they've been looking for forever. These are the Higgs fields. This is blue slowing down. I can show it slowing down, speeding up, dividing, and we can show the electrons, and we can show dark matter. All right, I think that went out of phase there for a second. We're showing literally the electrons we always thought was light, electricity. You know, a solar panel gets hit with them, it creates electricity. We thought that's what it was. Well, no, it's also the dark particles. But they can separate, as I have shown you. All right, maybe I didn't show you, but I can show you here. This is the Venturi. I said when the light hits the Venturi, the black ones separate from the white. The Venturi is so finely tuned that the big black ones, they can't go. They're fixed particles. They can't squish through. The white ones are squishy little buggers. Zip, go right through. And the black ones go bam, 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 and push them through. That's why you're getting all this radiance out of here. And the black ones will jump right back in and reattach. They want to be glued. They're called gluons. Now, just so you know, this is exactly what CERN and Fermilab are looking for. They're looking for the muons, which is the black ball all by itself, right here, separated from the white. And then they want to see the electron showers. There they are. Done and done. Just so you know, the green ones are the same as the red. Like I said, they got the blacks attached to them. Only these are much more powerful. Green has a lot more energy than the red. Now you can see the black particles are coming this way. There's no black going this way. And you see all these concussive wave functions here that are white on white, white on white, white on white, white on white. Here you don't have that same effect. Very strange. And I want to credit Rod Warren for these pictures. He did this work just on his own. He was over there playing around, and he didn't realize what he had here by any means. But when I saw it, whoa, Rod, can you work with me? And yes, he did for years, and he still does now. And he's a master. He's an absolute master at this. And without this, nobody could prove any of this stuff. All right, now this is the other one that I was showing, the magnetic fields. This is actually Rod's nephew, Dylan Carpenter. He's in New Zealand. Rod's down under. He's in Australia. And I just out of the blue, this pops up. He's like, oh, I'm Dylan Carpenter, I'm Rod's nephew, and here's what I found with my new phone. I said, holy crap. So I said, can you work with me? He said, the same thing, just like Rod, no problem. So then he comes back with a bunch of other stuff. Look at this. I'll just show you this one because, I mean, what more can I say? Anytime there's an interaction of fields, you get this concussive effect, and it gets less and less and less intense as you get further and further away from the concussion, just like sound waves. It's magnetic fields. I'm telling you, I get more from my researchers that just are in this for the knowledge than you will ever get at any top university ever. And I've been really going back and forth with a lot of these. You know, they finally just shut you off. They won't listen to you because they can't put up a defense. But I'm going to tell you what, I hope Dylan's proud of his uncle Rodney, because Rod is the only reason I can talk about this in the way I do. Because I want to be forceful about this. I want this looked into. This is ridiculous. The amount of money they spend to avoid reality makes me sick. You see this? This is Fermilab. They say this is a fixed particle, never changes size. That one there's a point particle. It's big, small, and anything. That's exactly right. The black one never changes size, like a bowling ball. That's why you can't get through the little Venturi. You can't get through. The white one squirts right down. It can get big, it can get small, doesn't matter. That's how this is working. And the black, which they never knew this black was attached to the whites. They never saw it. It doesn't emit, it doesn't absorb, and it doesn't reflect, and it doesn't do anything other than pull the white ones back to it. And here's one here, and here's one here. They'll never change size. These can get big, they can get small, doesn't matter. They can glow, they can not glow. And when it comes through the Venturi, as I showed you before, right here, they're separated. Absolutely zero questione. And here's exactly what the CERN and Fermilab want to see with Cherenkov, which this is Cherenkov radiation. It's a split. The muon goes its way, and the electron showers go their way. But zip, they come right back together. Okay, so let's just get rid of Bohr. Bohr is no more. There is a new standard model, and it's the electron flood theory. All dipoles, 100% dipoles. Everything is made of these two particles. The muon is a fixed particle, never changes. Electron is a squishy little white one. Back to back, they make a photon. Protons, I think, are 1835, not 1839. Neutrons are 1836. That's what I believe. And when they get up into those ranges, they crust around the outside of the black, so you never see the black at all until they interact. And then that's, once you get into the molecular range, you're into balls of the white around the black, because the whites want to get away from each other as far as they can. And the black doesn't care. They could go right on top of each other, couldn't care less. So the the whites push, well, let me show you. You see this? This is exactly what happens when you get up into the molecular range. Your white particles completely surround the black. And this was in outer space, in the Russian space capsule, where they were in zero gravity. And zero gravity means I can push all that black to the center and it'll just stay there, all right on top of each other. I couldn't care less. But the white ones want to be, they either attracted or they're being sucked in. I don't know which. But they coat around the outside. You see this? This is more attacks on my hero, Immanuel Velikovsky. Pseudoscience Wars, this Michael Grodin resurrects the largely forgotten figure of Velikovsky and uses his strange career and surprisingly influential writings to explore the changing definition of the line that separates legitimate scientific inquiry from what is deemed bunk, and to show how vital this question remains to us today. It is vital because we are being taught not to question, just accept. You see, they're starting to understand. $450 they want for a used Worlds in Collision, used 235, used 59. He is going to be the hero of history for standing up in the midst and being destroyed. It literally ruined his life. He had nothing that he deserved. Let me put it that way. All he did was fight a fight every day of the rest of his life since 1950 until he died. I think it was 1979. All right, so he just finished up with the part about inventing the interplanetary magnetic field. Well, we just saw it. It's real. No question about that. He was way ahead of his time.
He claimed in 1950 that the ancient civilizations of Central America were much older than believed. Recently, this view, too, has been proved by radiocarbon dating. All in all, a score of Dr. Velikovsky's predictions have been verified, and the opposition within the scientific community has abated. New voices are being heard. For instance, that of Lloyd Motz, professor of astronomy at Columbia University, who, while he still disagrees with Velikovsky, says his predictions should be recognized and his writings should be carefully studied and analyzed because they are the product of an extraordinary and brilliant mind and are based on some of the most concentrated and penetrating scholarship and research of our period.
Exactly. He did the research. The ones that are after him are the ones that didn't do any research. They just said, the guy's crazy. How could this pot is just too spectacular? Because the things they wrote and the things I showed, they are spectacular, yes.
Here with us today on Camera 3 to discuss his theories with Dr. Velikovsky in his first television appearance is Eric Larrabee, an editor and writer whose articles about Dr. Velikovsky were the earliest attempts to make him familiar to a wider audience, and whose latest piece in Harper's Magazine has directed attention to a re-examination of the Velikovsky theories.
All right, I'm going to cut it off now. This has got quite long, but we're going to go through this, and I'm going to just keep harping on Velikovsky because he is going to be known for the hero he was. I'm going to see to that. Now, I just want to make one last final statement for this video. Virtually nobody accepts my evidence, even though it's evidence. In the academic arena, I am absolutely forbidden. And I don't ascribe to everything that anybody says. But if you could come with evidence, that's what I want. I want evidence. I'm a material scientist. I make no determination until I see the evidence. You have evidence, I'll look at it. No evidence, what am I going to do? Just listen to your theories and blah, 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 blah. No. He had actual documentation. And now I have the actual physical material evidence to support most of the things he said. I don't know if I can do everything, but damn near.